I've been on YouTube for over 8 years reviewing supplements, which has given me the opportunity to try hundreds of different protein powders. This firsthand experience has given me industry insight into what goes into making the best products, as well as consumer experience for what makes a desirable and good tasting product. Levels, which is in front of me today, is a brand who goes above and beyond to produce some of the highest quality protein with no artificial flavors or ingredients. There's one key downside, however, that has kept this protein from earning a permanent spot on my shelf. Levels makes it impossible to miss the fact that they are a brand focused on natural ingredients with no artificial flavors or additives. When navigating to their homepage, my entire laptop screen is taken up by their slogan, written in enormous text that reads, "Nothing fake ever." Specifically, they avoid the use of added sugars, soy, gluten, and artificial sweeteners in their products. Levels uses sea salt, stevia, and monk fruit to sweeten and flavor their products, plus additional ingredients that vary by flavor such as cocoa powder, peanut powder, and vanilla extract. Levels has also managed to create a naturally flavored product at an incredibly reasonable price point. Other all-natural protein powders like Transparent Lab grass-fed whey isolate and Naked Nutrition whey offer products that cost between $2 and $2.40 per serving. Levels offers their protein for between $1.10 and $1.78 per serving, now depending on which size you buy, which makes it a bargain in the naturally flavored category. Perhaps the biggest advantage that Levels has, aside from all the natural formula and affordability, is the fact that they offer 15-day satisfaction guarantee. If you are unhappy with your product, they will send you a promotional gift card to try something new, making your investment into Levels protein a low-risk one. Aside from their whey protein powder, Level also manufactures collagen and casein protein, which all follow the same all-natural guidelines. Level's products are all made in the USA, and each batch is third-party tested for heavy metal content. The whey protein is sourced from suppliers of humanely raised, grass-fed cows from across the USA. Let's now get into Levels whey itself. So Levels whey uses exclusively whey concentrate protein, which has undergone minimal processing. They have 9 different flavor options available that are sweetened with stevia and monk fruit. The macronutrient breakdown of Levels whey protein is as follows: protein 24 grams, carbs 4 grams, fat 2.5 grams, and sugar 2 grams. Levels whey has 130 calories per scoop. Chocolate peanut butter is the one exception at 140 calories, so 10 calories more. Now, with 24 grams of protein per scoop, Levels whey protein offers around 74% protein per scoop. This puts Levels whey protein right on the cusp of having a good protein percentage, but it technically falls down into the reasonable range. As per feastgood.com criteria, a reasonable protein percentage is one that is between 60 to 74%. To be considered a good protein percentage, it needs to fall between 75 and 85%, and anything above 85% is considered excellent. One reason for this lower protein percentage is due to the fact that Level uses whey concentrate instead of whey isolate. Now, concentrate has undergone less filtration and retains some of its naturally occurring sugars and fats. Let's now go through what I liked about Levels protein. So, all natural ingredients. What I appreciate most about Levels is their commitment to using all natural ingredients and grass-fed whey protein. They avoid the use of artificial flavors, colors, and sweeteners, which is awesome. There is typically a sacrifice made in taste when a company uses all natural ingredients, which I found to be the case with Levels whey protein and similar protein powders I have tried, like Naked Nutrition whey. That being said, customers who prioritize high-quality ingredients and find conventional protein powders to be too sweet will appreciate Levels. Second, phenomenal value. Levels whey costs between $1.10 and $1.78 per serving, like I mentioned. When assessing more than 50 protein powders on the market, we found that the average cost per serving to be around $1.35. Among all whey proteins, Levels comes in at a very attractive price point. If we take this one step further, however, and compare Levels to similar all-natural protein powders, the value is amplified. Similar brands like Naked Nutrition cost between $2.23 and $3.36 per serving for the same amount of protein per scoop, 25 grams, and significantly higher sugar and carb content. Now, the cost of Levels whey is dependent on which size tub you buy. The smaller tubs will be a lower overall investment, but a higher cost per serving. On the other hand, the larger tubs will require a bigger initial investment, but save you considerable money in the long term. Now, some of its drawbacks: poor taste and mixability. The biggest con of Levels must be that it's bitter, an unpleasant taste, and gritty texture. In a blind taste test of more than a dozen chocolate protein powders, Levels scored at the very bottom for taste and mixability for its 2 chocolate flavors, pure chocolate and double chocolate. We did 2 total trials, one where we had all the chocolate protein powders together, and then one where we separated all the natural products from the artificially sweetened ones. Levels took last place and second to last place in both of these trials. Now, Levels mixes easily without any clumping, but I do find it has a slightly gritty texture and leaves a kind of residue on my teeth. Second, unclear third-party testing. Levels Whey states that they are third-party tested, but they give no indication on their website of who does the third-party testing, and the results are not easily available to public. There's no reason to think that Levels is being dishonest in their claim, and I am sure that they are third-party tested like they claim to be. As consumers like yourself or myself are becoming more aware of third-party testing, more pressure is being put on supplement companies to be transparent about their testing processes. Companies like Transparent Labs, for example, publicly disclose the results of their testing on their website. Brands who invest in third-party certifications like Informed Choice, Informed Sport, Informed Protein, or NSF have the results of their tests available on the certification organization website. These certifications are expensive, which is perhaps why Levels has chosen to forego that extra step, which allows them to keep their costs lower than their competition. So, my experience using this protein over the last 30 days. Working in the supplement industry can be both a blessing and a curse because I have had the opportunity to test more than 100 protein powders. I have the luxury of being able to cherry pick my favorites and be extremely picky about which proteins I like. For that reason, I think I come across a little bit harsh in my assessment of the taste and texture of Levels Whey. Do I think there are naturally flavored protein powders that taste better than Levels? Yes. Do any of these brands offer a high quality grass-fed whey protein and low price that Levels does? No. When I did my blind taste test of the 12 different proteins, I tested them all one right after another. Doing this means that the outliers, for example, any proteins that are a little bit bitter or a little bit sweet, will have those characteristics amplified. When I tasted Levels side by side with the other protein powders, I nearly wanted to spit it out because it seemed flavorless and extremely bitter. I hope that makes sense. When I have Levels on its own, removed from the influence of other chocolate proteins back to back to back, the taste is much more palatable. I do still find it to be on the bitter side, and it does not quite as flavorful as other protein powders, but I don't feel compelled to spit it out. Despite my best efforts, this was not a protein powder I add to the supplement cupboard on a regular basis. This is mostly because I'm the kind of person who mixes my protein powder with water on the go or just with milk, and Levels just doesn't have the sweetness or richness that I'm looking for from my protein powder. If I were making smoothies, adding protein to coffee, or mixing it into yogurt and oatmeal on a regular basis, then I would definitely be drawn to Levels for 2 key reasons. The more mild flavor means that this protein will lend itself better to recipes where you want other aspects to be the star of the show. For example, if you mix Levels protein into a fruit smoothie, the fruits you choose will dictate the flavor more than the protein powder will. Secondly, the cost of the product may well justify the so-so flavor. If you are on a tighter budget, but still want a product that uses high quality, all natural ingredients, it isn't common for those 2 priorities to work together. Levels has done a great job of marrying the 2. So now on to one of my favorite parts of the video. How does Levels stack up against our criteria of whey protein that we have reviewed on this channel? So at Feastgood, we have 8 different criteria on ranking the whey protein. Here's how Levels Whey stacked up against the rest. Nutrition label transparency, 4.5 out of 5. Levels Whey clearly labels all calories, carbs, protein, and fat per serving in accordance with National Good Guide standards. The only place where Levels loses marks for transparency is that they don't clearly identify who their third-party tester is and what the results of that testing are. Fat content transparency. I've given it a 5 out of 5. Levels Whey has 2.5 to 3.5 grams of fat per serving with 1.5 grams of saturated fat, which is clearly identified on each flavor's nutritional label. Effective ingredients. I've given it a 4 out of 5. Levels Whey protein uses grass-fed whey concentrate and natural flavors and sweeteners. The product is soy-free and gluten-free. Levels does not get a perfect score for effective ingredients only because the use of their whey concentrate instead of whey isolate means that the protein has a lower overall protein percentage and higher naturally occurring carb and fat content. Protein percent of calories, 3.75 out of 5. Levels Whey has 24 grams of protein per scoop and around 130 calories per serving. This puts it at around 74% protein per scoop like I mentioned. So this is now in the reasonable category. The reason that the protein percentage is lower despite not having any unnecessary added ingredients is because they use whey concentrate, like I've mentioned, which still has some of the naturally occurring fat and sugar from the dairy. Taste and flavor. My rating is 2.5 out of 5. I've mentioned it many times in this video. I've tried both the pure chocolate and double chocolate flavors, and while I did prefer the taste of the double chocolate, I found them both to be quite bitter and undesirable. Mixability. I've given it a 3 out of 5. Levels Whey mixes up without significant clumping, but it does have a gritty texture. When left to sit for a few minutes, the powder starts to separate, creating a sticky foam at the top with some sediment on the bottom. Texture, thick or thin, my rating is on the thicker side. Levels Whey mixes up with a slightly thicker texture, which is common for whey concentrate protein powders. If you can get past the slight grittiness, Levels does offer a nice creamy texture even when just mixed with water. And lastly, satiety. My rating is 3 out of 5. Levels Whey contains whey concentrate, which digests a little bit slower than the pure whey isolates. I found it provided satiety for approximately 2 hours after ingestion. On its own, Levels is still a low-calorie protein powder and should not be considered a meal replacement. When mixed with just water, or sometimes just with milk, I found it tied me over for about 1 to 2 hours. When mixed as a smoothie with fruit and some healthy fats, or stirred in oatmeal with peanut butter as such, it provided much more prolonged satiety. So, who is Levels Whey for and who maybe shouldn't take it? Let's start with who is it for. Someone who wants to avoid any artificial flavors, sweeteners, and colors. Individuals looking for a good any time of the day protein, those who find traditional protein powders too sweet, and anybody looking for a budget-friendly option. On the other hand, who should maybe stay away? Individuals with a lactose or dairy sensitivity, those who want a rich, dessert-like protein powder, and individuals who are sensitive to texture or want a protein they can easily mix with water and take on the go. That about wraps up my in-depth review on Levels Whey protein powder. If you want to see which chocolate protein is actually my favorite, then go check out my ultimate chocolate protein tier list up here in this corner, and I'll also link it down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.